I come from like a place where you have to be ready. Don't get ready, you gotta be ready, right? I would layer things around me to prepare for different
Got the drop on 50 Cent one time?
We thought we did.
Right.
We thought we did. Until we got in there. You had Navy SEALs with him. 2 in all directions. Probably about 6 of them. Walkies in their ear.
It was the Vibe Awards when we seen Suge Knight and Irv Gotti, and they walked past the trailer. 50 just look at James Cruz, so he just taps James Cruz and say, yo, go buy 29.
50 Cent once said, I come from a place where you have to be ready. Don't get ready, you gotta be ready. And that's exactly what happened when Wack100 thought he could mess with 50, but he was about to find out the hard way.
I said, yeah. He ain't slipping.
Today's not the day.
Nah, 50 moved different.
This was a man who had gone toe-to-toe with some of the most feared gangsters and killers and came out on top. 50 doesn't play with anyone. Let's break it down. 50 Cent has long been considered one of the smartest moguls in the game, especially when it comes to handling street matters. He had a mind for strategy, and people close to him knew it. Tony Yayo summed it up best. He said that the G-Unit crew never had to check in with anyone. Yayo even described the crew as a militant movement when it came to moving around the country.
We dealing with G-Unit, a lot of drama. So we had to move militant. Ain't just going to the mall and just going here with jewelry on and this and that, and you gotta move militant, bro.
Anyone who thought they could catch 50 slipping was in for a rude awakening, and that's exactly what went down during one particular clash with Wack100 back when 50 Cent was beefing with the game. At the time, Wack was managing the game, so naturally he found himself in the middle of the drama. According to Wack, he decided to confront 50 at his hotel in LA, thinking he had the upper hand, but things didn't go the way he expected. The story goes like this. Wack got tipped off that 50 was staying at the SLS hotel and chilling at the small bar inside. Confident, Wack rolled up with his crew, thinking it would be a simple face-to-face. But the moment they walked in, Wack said he immediately felt something shift in the air.
You got the drop on 50 Cent one time?
We thought we did.
Right.
We thought we did. Until we got in there. Somebody called us, Tony was up there. I got up there. He came in.
How deep were you?
About 15.
15 people.
Yeah, we wasn't that deep.
A quick scan of the lobby revealed why. 50 wasn't alone. He was posted up, surrounded by what looked like a squad of elite, highly trained security. Wack described them like Navy SEAL level operators, sharp, scanning everything, hands ready, formation tight. It was clear that 50 hadn't been caught slipping. What this really shows is that 50's preparation wasn't just about having muscle, it was about intelligence. He likely had informants keeping tabs, alerting him about Wack100's plan so he could set up what was essentially a counter trap. Even Wack admitted it felt like 50 orchestrated the whole thing just to send a message. The check-in system. This incident also highlights 50's refusal to play the modern street game that so many others get trapped in. In LA, there's this unspoken rule about checking in. If you're a rapper or celebrity coming into the city, especially areas with heavy gang presence, you're expected to link up with certain local figures. It's framed as a courtesy, but more often than not, it comes with strings attached. The locals usually expect something in return: money, a verse for their artist, business connections, or some other form of payment. And if you don't comply, things can get messy. Back then, the boss of this system was Big U. The word around LA was simple. If you were coming to the city, especially to shoot a video or perform in neighborhood Crip territory, you had to go through Big U, no exceptions.
But other dudes do got to, and I'm just gonna keep it 100. Just imagine this though, if another crew pull up in you guys' area and they ain't checked in with none of y'all, you gonna feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
Over the years, stories floated about artists like Wiz Khalifa, Meek Mill, and Chris Brown being pressed for money or forced into business deals just for showing up. One of the most infamous cases involved boxer Adrian Broner, who was allegedly taxed $100,000 for not checking in before hosting a celebrity game in LA. This kind of operation is exactly why Big U is currently behind bars, facing RICO charges, and will likely be there for a long time.
Lee Jr., a career criminal known as Big U, who used his contacts and leadership role in the Crips criminal street gang, the entertainment industry, to further his own criminal enterprise. An enterprise that engaged in murder, extortion, robbery, human trafficking, COVID fraud, and other felonies.
But 50 Cent played the game differently. He didn't bow to extortion, and that's what set him apart from many other rappers. Instead of paying street taxes, he invested in serious professional security. He combined street-level intelligence with real-world security infrastructure, making him far harder to catch off guard than someone like Wack expected. Also, not checking in meant 50 had to spend more on proper security than the typical artist. While others were handing over cash to modern-day thieves disguised as street operators, 50 was using that same money to protect himself and his business. On top of running a top-level professional security setup, 50 Cent also made sure to surround himself with some serious street-savvy individuals, people who were ready to ride for him at a moment's notice. One of the most notable examples is his main bodyguard and enforcer, Monsta. And Monsta wasn't just any bodyguard, he was 50's right hand in terms of protection. If you were looking at 50, chances were Monsta was nearby, quietly keeping an eye on everything. Monsta has always been a very private person, so there's not a ton of public information about him. But if you've watched any of 50's old videos, you've likely seen him. He's usually right behind 50, moving like a shadow, making sure nothing happens to him. One of the more notable moments involving Monsta came during some tense onstage drama between 50 and Trav. If you look closely in the background, you can see Monsta locked in, watching Trav like a hawk, ready to act if things went south. Monsta's loyalty wasn't without cost, though. Over the years, his dedication to 50 Cent landed him in some serious legal trouble. He racked up multiple assault charges for getting physical with people who got close to 50.
50 Cent's bodyguard allegedly attacked a man in the mall. Bodyguard came from behind him, snatched the phone out of his hands. Frazier confronted the bodyguard, and then he says the bodyguard shoved him. Son stepped in to break up the fight, and the bodyguard punched him in the face. You can't punch somebody in the face for that, though.
50 didn't do it.
I know, the security can. Now he's in trouble for it.
One of the most infamous incidents happened in 2010 in Copenhagen, Denmark, where he was charged with assault after allegedly attacking 2 photographers. According to the New York Daily News, the incident went down outside the San Petri Hotel, where a group of photographers had been waiting for 50 to come out. One of them, Nikolai Vrar, later told Radar Online how quickly things escalated. One of 50 Cent's bodyguards came out and told us to leave. The next thing I knew, he grabs my throat and tried to strangle me. He cut off my airway and I couldn't breathe. He took my camera and deleted photos. Vrar said he was so shaken that he had to go straight to the hospital and made it clear he wasn't letting it slide. I will be going straight to the police station and complete whatever paperwork is necessary. Monsta's story just shows the level of commitment 50 demanded and what he had around him. Then there's 50's history with Suge Knight, which is another prime example of never letting himself slip. The tension between Suge and 50 Cent can be traced back to Dr. Dre. When Dre left Death Row Records to start his own empire, it rubbed Suge the wrong way. Things got even more intense when Dre signed Eminem and later brought 50 Cent into the Aftermath family. Because of Suge's ongoing issues with Dre, 50 and M basically inherited the beef, whether they wanted to or not. And Suge, of course, wasn't the type to just let things go quietly. One early move from Suge was when he tried to intimidate 50 on the set of the In Da Club music video, showing up with a bunch of Mexican associates. But the real chaos came at the 2004 Vibe Awards. That night was supposed to be a celebration. Dr. Dre was being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Snoop Dogg and Quincy Jones were on stage to present it. But just as Dre was getting ready to accept the award, everything erupted. A man named Jimmy James Johnson approached Dre, seemingly for an autograph. Instead, he sucker punched him in front of everyone. What followed was total mayhem. People in the audience were screaming, chairs were flying, and around 1,000 attendees rushed for the exits. Right in the middle of it all was Young Buck, reportedly carrying a knife and swinging it during the fight. He later confirmed stabbing Johnson, supposedly in defense of Dre. The whole event quickly turned into a legal nightmare, with arrest warrants being issued and Buck facing charges.
Suddenly, see a shiny knife in his right hand. He lunges over the top with a stabbing motion. Police say that is 23-year-old young buck who then vanished.
While it's unclear if Suge orchestrated the whole thing, Tony Yayo mentioned spotting Suge Knight and Irv Gotti near the G-Unit trailer just before the chaos. That alone raised red flags. 50 Cent didn't take chances. He reportedly instructed his people to go out and buy a bunch of knives, just in case things went sideways. Clearly, that precaution was an overkill.
50 just look at James Cruz, so he just taps James Cruz and say, yo, go buy 20 knives. Yeah, just go to the hardware store. It was about 20 to 15 of us, something like that. Suge Knight got like some crazy looking, Compton looking dudes with him, you know what I'm saying? So it just, you felt the energy.
And of course, there's the long list of high-profile beefs 50 Cent has been involved in. Let's take Jimmy Henchman, for example. Their feud led to shootings, violent assaults, and the murder of one of 50's close associates. This war with 50 Cent ultimately resulted in Jimmy receiving his second life sentence. By the early 2000s, Jimmy Henchman was making serious moves in the music industry, managing big names like The Game. At the time, The Game was one of the hottest rappers out, and he had just signed with Dr. Dre, who then connected him with 50 Cent. On paper, this looked like the ultimate power move. 50 was on top of the world with G-Unit, and Dre's involvement gave The Game instant credibility. For a moment, it seemed like these two would dominate the rap game together. But things didn't stay smooth for long. According to Henchman, 50 started feeling some type of way about The Game's solo success. Game wasn't just another member of G-Unit, he was a rising star in his own right, and that supposedly didn't sit well with 50. The tension seemingly blew up when Game started rubbing shoulders with some 50's ops. That was enough for 50 to kick him out of G-Unit, sparking one of hip-hop's most infamous feuds. Most fans know about the legendary beef between 50 Cent and The Game, including the time it escalated into a shootout in New York. But what many people don't realize is that there was another, even darker layer to the story, a personal war that would eventually drag Henchman and his family into the mix. In 2007, things took a shocking turn when 50's right-hand man, Tony Yayo, and another G-Unit affiliate, Lodi Mac, ran into Henchman's 14-year-old son, known as Lil Henchman, on the streets. According to rumors, Lil Henchman was rocking a GU Not shirt, a direct diss to 50 Cent's crew. That didn't sit well with Yayo and Lodi, who decided to confront the kid. The confrontation turned ugly fast. The two allegedly pushed the kid up against the wall, and Yayo started slapping him. Then Lodi took it a step further by pulling out a gun and pistol whipping the teenager. It was a brutal and unnecessary move, especially since they were dealing with a minor.
If I slap your kid, you gonna go all out too. It's the streets. You know, rules got violated, and it is what it is.
Both Yayo and Lodi were arrested for the assault. While Yayo's charges were eventually dropped, Lodi pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and was sentenced to a few years in prison. The assault on Lil Henchman didn't go unanswered. Before Yayo even went to court, someone shot up his mother's house. Most people in the streets believe this was Henchman's way of sending a message. While no one was hurt in the shooting, it was a clear escalation in the feud, and it marked the point where things went from petty beef to something far more dangerous.
Because your mom's house got shot up afterwards. Was your mom and your sister in the house?
Nah, my mom's wasn't there, my sister was there.
Meanwhile, the war between G-Unit and Henchman's camp continued to heat up. That same year, Henchman allegedly made an attempt on 50 Cent's life. 50 was on the set of his music video for I'll Still Kill, a collab with Akon, when Henchman's crew rolled up. Armed with silenced guns, they were reportedly ready to start shooting. But before they could even get out of the car, one of the guns accidentally went off. The noise spooked them, and they ended up leaving the scene.
It was the filming of the 50 Cent and Akon I'll Still Kill video.
Oh, Henchman and them supposed to come through, and I guess they gun jammed, but we had God on that side, and they backed out on the hit, but we had straps too.
If that gun hadn't gone off, the situation could have turned into a bloodbath. Everyone in 50's camp was armed, so a shootout seemed inevitable. Fortunately, the mishap prevented any loss of life that day, but it showed just how far Henchman was willing to go in this escalating war. But this was just the beginning of the chaos Jimmy Henchman unleashed on Tony Yayo and 50 Cent. Jimmy was driving down Manhattan's West Side Highway and decided to take his hand off the wheel to grab his gun. As he was passing by 50 Cent's building, he was ready to fire, but he had to stop when he noticed some cops tailing him. That failed attempt didn't deter him, though. Jimmy got even more creative and sinister. He actually planned to blow up 50 Cent's bulletproof van. Knowing the cars were bulletproof, he figured an explosion might be the only way to get to 50. Jimmy's final attempt on Yayo's life was when he saw Tony Yayo's Bentley parked and decided to spray it with bullets. But as luck would have it, Yayo was sitting inside his bulletproof van parked just behind the Bentley, so he escaped unharmed.
You know, my issue was really more with Jimmy Henchman. And then, you know, as we leaving, I left Apollo around the corner. My Bentley got shot up, but luckily I was in my bulletproof truck behind the Bentley.
There were even rumors that Henchman had something to do with 50's house being burned down, though no concrete evidence ever surfaced to prove it. Still, the tension was at an all-time high, and both sides were clearly out for blood. Things reached a boiling point in 2009, shortly after Lodi Mack was released from prison. Just 2 weeks after getting out, Lodi was gunned down in the middle of the street in the Bronx. The murder sent shockwaves through the streets, and all eyes immediately turned to Henchman. The murder was meticulously planned by Henchman and his associates. They got information about Lodi Mack's release and movements. When they initially tried to identify him, they missed him, but they persisted. Eventually, they found out who Lodi Mack's lawyer was and called the lawyer, pretending to be a friend of a close associate, Biggie. They told the lawyer that Biggie had asked them to look after Lodi Mack now that he was out of prison. Lodi Mack, grateful for the supposed help and thinking a friend was looking out for him, agreed to meet up with him. Tragically, this led to his demise. It didn't take a detective to put two and two together. Lodi had assaulted Henchman's son, and now he was dead. For years, the murder went unsolved, though everyone seemed to know who was behind it. While investigators were busy piecing together the murder of Lodi Mack, Jimmy Henchman found himself facing another set of serious charges that would eventually seal his fate. In 2010, Henchman was hit with charges of cocaine trafficking, money laundering, and witness tampering. Prosecutors allege that Henchman wasn't just dabbling in the drug game, he was running one of the largest operations in the country, pulling in over $11 million a year. When the feds finally caught up with Henchman, they made sure he paid the price. He was sentenced to life in prison, with a judge describing his crimes as astonishing in their breadth, duration, and intensity. But Henchman's legal troubles didn't stop there. While serving his time for the drug charges, Henchman was officially charged in 2012 for orchestrating the murder of Lodi Mack. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Several of his own shooters flipped on him, providing detailed testimonies, and there were more than 35 witnesses lined up to testify. By 2014, Henchman was found guilty and received yet another life sentence. And then, of course, there's 50 Cent's infamous beef with Supreme, which ultimately led to one of the most legendary events in hip-hop history, 50 getting shot 9 times. Everyone already knows how the story goes, but the full context makes it even crazier. 50 and Supreme actually started out with a decent relationship. Things shifted, though, when 50 got into it with Ja Rule. Supreme, being an enforcer for Murder Inc., was naturally on Ja Rule's side, and 50 wasn't backing down, keeping the pressure on Ja Rule without hesitation. That's when their dynamic completely broke. Tony Yayo later shared a story about one of the encounters between 50 and Supreme during that period. According to Yayo, 50 made it crystal clear to Supreme that he wasn't intimidated by him at all.
50 up there. Supreme, dude, you know the old school shit. You know what 50 did? Yeah, my nigga.
Do it back, yeah.
Yeah, my nigga.
That's,
you know what the block did?
Yeah, that's what
To add more fuel to the fire, 50 started associating with guys like E Moneybags, Big Nose Troy, and Green Eyed Born, people who already had beef with Supreme. That only escalated the tension. Things came to a head when 50 released the track Ghetto Quran, which somehow ended up in Supreme's hands. In the song, 50 rapped, "See dudes feared Prince and respected Preem. For all you slow mother effers, I'ma break it down iller. See, Preem was the businessman and Prince was the killer." That line didn't sit well with Supreme at all. He decided he was done with 50 Cent. Then on May 24th, 2000, the situation turned deadly. 50 was leaving his grandmother's house with his son inside the car and his grandmother in the yard. As he got into the back seat, another car pulled up. and an assailant fired 9 shots from a 9mm pistol. 50 was hit in his hand, arm, hip, both legs, chest, and even his left cheek. A few inches higher, and he wouldn't have made it.
Where were you shot?
In my hands, my legs several times, like 5 times in my hands, and then in my legs, and then in my face.
Miraculously, after 3 weeks in the hospital and multiple surgeries, 50 pulled through. His survival became one of the most legendary tales in rap folklore. 3 years later, in the track Many Men, he revealed the shooter's identity with the line, "Homo shot me." 3 weeks later, he got shot down. Homo was indeed killed 3 weeks later, but it was a coincidence. He died from gang violence, not revenge. The police, however, didn't stop there. They gathered enough evidence to arrest McGriff in 2002 on pending murder charges. In 2003, Irv Gotti also came under investigation, putting Murder Inc. in serious jeopardy. Gotti was eventually charged with laundering money for McGriff in 2005, but the jury found him not guilty. McGriff, on the other hand, wasn't so lucky. Using testimony from a hitman, text messages, and video evidence, prosecutors proved he had hired killers for $50,000. With his assets seized and no money for a private lawyer, McGriff was left with a court-appointed attorney. On April 9, 2007, he was sentenced to life in prison. Meanwhile, 50 Cent came out of it all stronger. He survived one of the most brutal attacks in hip-hop history, turned the experience into art, and thrived in the game. By the time the dust settled, his enemies were either irrelevant, behind bars, or 6 feet under.